Welcome to my first Lorcana video. I'm Poisonous, and today I'm going to show you how to play Blue Steel Song Edition. This deck doesn't use items, it uses Gramma Tala, Mama Odie, and a lot of songs to take control of the board. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Pause the video here if you want to check out the deck list or pull it up on Dreamborn, the link is in the description. Let's jump into some gameplay. Our first matchup we're going to take a look at is against Steel Song. Steel Song is a fairly good matchup for this deck. I think it does well most of the time. You want to start your opening with your turn 1 drop, your Robin Hood or Captain Hook into turn 2 Smee. Smee has the benefit of not dying to Let the Storm Rage On or Strength of Raging Fire. And then turn 3 Pete, I think, is an essential card to try and keep it or look for in your opening hand. It shuts down any turn 3 songs for Steel Song, but it also gives you a body to sing with when you follow up with turn 4 Mama Odie, which allows you to get at least one ramp before maybe they remove one of your cards, and it sets you up for a strong turn 5 play like Cogsworth, who's excellent in this matchup, or the extra ink even lets you play Tinkerbell, which is a big threat against small characters, or if they're running a more aggro build. Another line to consider would be turn 1 Captain Hook or Robin Hood into turn 2 Smee or Cinderella. Cinderella does have a use where she lets you draw a card and then discard, so if you have too many Uninkables in your hand, or you have like 2 Whole New Worlds, you can get rid of one of them for something a little more useful. Following it up with the turn 3 Mama Odie, and then having your 2 costs sing 1 jump ahead. So you gain an ink for 1 jump and you gain an ink for the Mama Odie. This gives you the ability to play a 5 or 6 cost on turn 4, or even shifting into the big Cinderella, which is a very intimidating card in any matchup. Alright, let's jump into a game on Pixelborn. We open with inking Robin Hood, playing Captain Hook, getting our 1 cost body out there on the board. The opponent's going to be looking to start off with usually a turn 1 Cinderella. Provides a threat that can sing a song and remove our small character. So they do play the Cinderella. We're going to follow up with Smee. Smee's a great body because it can survive the singing Let the Storm Rage On from Cinderella, and it also usually can survive strength unless they play 2 1-drops. For their turn, they do actually end up playing 2 1-drops, but we're fortunate that they don't have a song for Cinderella to sing, so they don't remove any of our characters, but it seems very likely that they're setting up for a shift for Robin Hood into the big Robin Hood. We're going to follow up with our turn 3 ideal play, which is Pete, locking them out of singing a song with Cinderella or shifting into Robin Hood and singing Whole New World, Grab Your Sword, Along Came Zeus, or things that, could really help strengthen their position. We'll quest with the Smee, and they do end up shifting Robin Hood here. So now they have the option to potentially take out Smee, however it means that we could follow up with Captain Hook to bounce their big Robin Hood. So they might not want to do that, especially if they're saving it to sing next turn when the Pete effect is gone. We're now in a great position to set up our Mama Odie ramp. We have a 3 cost singer and Pete out on the board, so we can start getting value off her ramp effect. Pete's gonna sing Let the Storm Rage On. We're gonna take out Cinderella, get rid of that singer body, and draw a card. We also ink the top card of our deck. So we're starting to ramp here. My hand is kind of plagued with uninkables, so I don't actually ink from hand on this turn. But we do quest with the Smee, because now they can challenge into Pete or Smee, but we still have to follow up with Captain Hook or the character that they don't challenge in the situation. They do deliberate for some time here. They end up deciding to ink a card and playing a flute. Flute's not really an ideal card you want to play when you're behind on board position, which tells me that they're limited in the options that they have. They decide to sing Grab Your Sword with Robin Hood, which does do a lot of damage to our characters, but luckily only actually clears out the Captain Hook. They trade their little Robin Hood into the Smee. But now we're left in a position where their Robin Hood is exerted and we can try and counter back on our turn here. So we do play another Mama Odie. We're trying to get another body on the board, and this also can really speed up our ramp, allowing us to ink twice for each song. And from this position we can sing Strength of a Raging Fire, which does 3 damage to their big Robin Hood and gets it down low enough that Pete can swing in and actually finish off Robin Hood. Ideally, you'd want to be able to finish Robin Hood with a song. That way they don't get the extra draw effect for Robin Hood. But the only way that we could sequence it to do enough damage was to have the song first and then Pete go in second. For their turn, they're stuck in a position where they're forced to cast Whole New World with no characters on board, which is really going to help us more, or as much as it's going to help them. They're already on the back foot in this situation. So we're going to get first crack at all these new cards, and we have 2 singers on the board to sing any songs when they do eventually play characters. This would be another ideal situation to play a Pete, so that way they can't play any songs out of the new hand that they just got. So we're going to play a Cinderella. We're going to dig forward a little bit, discard something else, and we do hit the Pete, so we can block them out of playing any strong song effects on this upcoming turn. We're also going to ink now that we have more resources. We're going to play Smee, get another threat on the board, and now we can quest out safely with Mama Odie because they don't have any characters on board. Being limited to not having any songs this turn means that they're just going to play some characters. They're going to start out by playing Ariel. They're going to dig for a song that they can set up for, maybe a big play next turn to try and get them back in the game. But the song they find is definitely not useful in this matchup. Our blue steel list doesn't play any items, so the Find 'em and Flatten 'em is not going to see any value. But they do play a Pete, which is, a strong play in this situation. It means that our Mama Odies aren't going to get any more ramp value this turn. But we do have a big board, big advantage here, so we can push that further. We're going to dig a little deeper into our deck using Gramma Tala, look at the top 2, and pick the best card for the situation that we're in. We do find another Pete, and this is almost backbreaking to their position because we have a very large board. We're going to quest ahead to our, further our advantage, and they're in a situation where they're not able to play actions for another turn, and the Steel Song deck really relies on playing those actions in those big swing turns in order to get way ahead or to get back into the game, and our Petes are able to prevent that. So from here, the game is basically over. We're so far ahead on board, their actions aren't going to make a difference, and we're going to be able to sing our songs first. So it's a GG for this one. We were able to get a pretty good opening, and they didn't have a lot of songs when they needed the most, and then we locked them out for the rest of the time. For our next matchup, we're going to look at our worst pairing, and that's against red-blue, which has historically always been something that's been tough for blue-steel to win against because of the large endgame characters that they have, as well as the big removal with Sisu, Be Prepared, Maleficent Dragon. All of those things can really pose a lot of problems, so we need to take a beatdown approach. Works pretty well if we have the play. It's a really hard matchup on the draw. We want to start with turn 1 Captain Hook, preferably into turn 2 Smee, and then even a turn 3 another Smee might be the ideal opening in this matchup. It puts a lot of early lore pressure on your opponent to get the Sisu and the Brawl out there. But if not, you can play Mama Odie. Hopefully, if they had a little Sisu, they've already played it on Captain Hook. And then move into turn 4, Gramma Tala. Gives you a decent sized body and gives you a shift target for big Gramma Tala, which is another way to squeeze out lore in this matchup. Another option for starting this game if we don't have the Smee on 2 is to look at using one jump, so playing a turn 1 character, turn 2 one jump ahead, and then spending turn 3 to play Gramma Tala, or if they've already set up, a popsicle and a fishbone quill, then playing Find 'em and Flatten 'em here can be quite devastating. Cuts off their potential card draw with Hiram, cuts off their ramp with fishbone quill, and can really take away, big plays that they've already made in the early game and give us a bit more of an advantage shifting into our larger characters and then playing Whole New World, and potentially, being able to out-ramp them means that we'll have more options to try and win in the long game. Let's take a look at a match on Pixelborn. In this matchup, we're playing red-blue on the draw, which is definitely, worst case scenario for us, but we'll see how it goes. Start off with turn 1 popsicle, drawing them an extra card, setting up their items for Hiram. We go with turn 1 Robin Hood. It allows us to have the threat of shifting, and it's an early quester while we establish a board and try and gain as much early lore as possible to survive the late game surge by red-blue. They go turn 2 Tipo, inking an extra card, ramping ahead, allowing them to make turn 4 plays like Hiram or How Far I'll Go. We have our turn 2 Smee, which is definitely the best turn 2 play that we can have. We do have Find 'em and Flatten 'em in hand and the big Robin Hood. So if they play a fishbone quill here, we do have the potential to shift and sing the song and maybe destroy their item or even more items to really take advantage of all of the tempo loss of them spending their turns playing items to not get any value with Hiram. However, unfortunately, the big Robin Hood is the only inkable card in my hand, and we can't afford to spend a turn not pushing our board ahead, so I have to ink the big Robin and play Mama Odie here, at least setting up for some extra ramp when we do play the Find 'em and Flatten 'em. They do have the Hiram, means that they do get some value off their items before we're going to get to banish them, which is unfortunate. They play the Hiram, they draw 2, they get an ice block out on the board, which is a very strong card in any matchup. It allows their control options to be even better with Little Sisu, Big Sisu, and Madame Medusa. Forgot to put damage on my Smee, so I went ahead and got that corrected here. So we did draw an inkable, which is fortunate. So we play 4 for Find 'em and Flatten 'em. So we get rid of that ice block, popsicle, and fishbone quill. We also get to ink a card for Mama Odie's effect. And we're gonna have Mama Odie sing Let the Storm Rage On. Get rid of the Tipo. It's not really much of a threat, but it does let us draw a card and it gives us another ink off of Mama Odie. So now we're caught back up on the race to ramp ahead, and we're gonna questo with our characters again. Again, I forgot to put damage on Smee. They play a Madame Medusa. They deliberate if they want to remove Mama Odie or Smee. We fix the damage on Smee here. But they do choose to go with the Mama Odie. I think that he recognizes the potential threat that Mama Odie represents with all the extra ramp and, potential for Gramma Tala or other things to come. So we play another Mama Odie and follow it up with a song, allowing us to clear the Medusa, getting another ink, and we're trying to, play out the cards in our hand, setting up for a whole new world into a new hand, hopefully with more ink than our opponent, so we can get a bit more advantage out of it. Again, they Medusa the Mama Odie. So here we play Pete, and then we cast the Whole New World from our hand. I think that the Pete is worth playing. They're at 6 ink, so coming around to 7, they could consider playing Be Prepared, or maybe they'll draw into some brawls or other actions that they'd like to play. So I think it's worth playing out of the hand that I did have, instead of, saving that ink to see what I draw into. I think that Pete is a great play to block the board. We ink, get Robin Hood out, and then we quest with Smee, who now dies. But he got us 6 lore, so he definitely lived a full life. Our opponent plays another ice block, setting up the availability for some moves with Big Sisu or Brawl potentially. They set up another Fishbone Quill. They use their ice block on our Robin Hood, and then they play little Sisu, removing the Robin Hood, challenging into the other Robin Hood with their Medusa, trying to get back some of the board advantage that we had built up. And then they quest with Hiram, destroying the Fishbone Quill, preserving the ice block. Now that we have lots of ink, we can get out our big characters. So we play Gramma Tala, and then we ink a card to immediately gain a lore off of Gramma Tala's effect. This brings us to a point where we can play another Pete to try and protect our Gramma Tala. If they're going to try and use Be Prepared, they're not going to be able to cast that this turn, which gives us at least one more turn, potentially, where we can get some extra value out of the Gramma Tala off of inking. She's not easily removed, even with one ice block. She could potentially be hit by Madame Medusa, but they've already played 2 of them. They do use the ice block on Gramma Tala before questing with Hiram. I think they're definitely digging for the Medusa in order to try and get rid of Gramma Tala. They play Vision of the Future again. Obviously, they're digging for the Medusa. They're looking for an answer to Tala. They don't have enough ink to play Maleficent Dragon, and I can tell by how long they were deliberating that the Medusa wasn't there, or I think it would have been an auto pick as soon as they saw the 5 cards. So they play another ice block, play a Hiram. At this point, they're debating whether they use the ice block on a character, but they only have 1 ink left, so there's really nothing that they're going to draw into here that's going to, give them any extra value off the ice block. They trade out their Medusa onto our Pete, realizing that we're at 13 lore. They have to pretty much remove characters as much as possible from here on out to prevent us from grinding our way up to 20 lore. They pass the turn back to us, and we will play a second Gramma Tala, and then we ink, this time gaining 2 lore, 1 for each Gramma Tala. And now we're going to play Strength for Raging Fire. We're going to remove the little Sisu. It at least cuts off the shift. They do have enough ink to play Sisu at this point at cost, but without any ice blocks, there's no real value to it, and this is going to make them at least, pay the full price. As expected, the Be Prepared comes out. We didn't have a Pete to block for our characters any longer. Now it means that we're going to have to try and eke out 2 more lore before the end. I did have a Whole New World in hand this entire time, so I wasn't afraid of, dumping my entire hand onto the board, playing that second Gramma Tala, playing that song, just emptying out the hand, knowing that I would be able to refill my hand this turn using the Whole New World. And we have so much ink that we're able to play out a couple characters and threaten lethal right off the back of the Whole New World. If I didn't have the Whole New World in hand, I might play it a little more conservatively, thinking that the board wipe was coming and not wanting to get overcommitted. But knowing that we're getting a whole new hand here definitely gives them options for removal, but gives us more and more options to keep refilling our board. I think if they drew into Be Prepared, they would play it right away here, get rid of both characters, but the hesitation tells me that they're thinking about which character to remove, knowing that both of them have a shift line in my deck. So if they have to remove one, there's a potential here that I could shift the other one and still quest to 20 this turn. So they do play the Maleficent Dragon. They choose Gramma Tala, thinking that maybe I have the shift here. And fortunately for us, they chose wrong, because we do have the Robin Hood shift. So we're able to quest for game here and take the match.